Hey, AP students. It's Sunday afternoon. We're just starting a new semester in AP Government. And I'm making this video to just tell you about some stuff you're going to see on Classroom. There is a bit of teaching that's going to happen here as well. So just wanted to make you aware of that. So one of the things that I'm working on with this AP Government within a regular government class is, again, my focus is on your success, your understanding of the material. But related to that is just that concept of, we're missing some class time to discuss some things that we're reading. And I've known that that's a component that was missing. And what I did over the weekend is I added some discussion questions to Google Classroom. And so I'm going to just flip this around here. In Google Classroom, you're going to see there's 3 questions related to Chapter 1. What you're going to have to do is maybe look back through your notes and then answer those questions. They're meant to be discussion questions as well as application questions where you have to apply what it is that you understand and learned and then maybe make an opinion or an informed judgment on. And then what you are going to do is you are going to have to respond to others as well. And so there will be an opportunity for you to respond. Apologize for the camera right now. It seems to be freaking out. But hopefully we can work with it anyway. I don't think that it likes the board back there, but I'm going to use that in a second. So what I did is it's now Sunday afternoon and that's posted. I'm now putting this video together and I'll send it to you. You may have time tonight on Sunday night, just for a while to start to answer the questions. But I would I made it due tomorrow, which is Monday at 6 p.m. With the idea that you could then, spend the rest of Monday night maybe responding to people's questions. So you may have to go on there and first of all, answer the questions as you would. And then maybe watch what others are saying and then responding to them. That's going to serve as our discussion for class. This is new. I have not used Google Classroom for this. There may be some bumps in the road. But I'm also going to tell you right now how I want you to respond to those bumps in the road. Sometimes kids, I think high school kids, love it when something doesn't quite work right. Because then they can just kind of throw up their hands and say, well, it didn't work. And I guess we can't do it. And I want you to press into it. If it's not working, I want you to email me and say, Mr. Weeda, this isn't working, so that I can quickly address it. I think that is an important concept in AP level work, that you are accountable for it and if it doesn't work, you contact me so I can give you a workaround. But I really do want you to press into understanding some of these concepts. There is going to be a question on the policymaking cycle. And like how that can result in good government that we all say, you know what, that was a good thing to do, and maybe how it results in bad government and why. And so you're going to comment on that. And then the second question is going to be about democratic theories, which I'm going to just give you a little bit of background on that as well. And you're going to answer a question on that. And then lastly, there is kind of 5 elements of the American Creed, or 5 elements of things that hold us together. So those are the 3 questions. By answering them and discussing them, you're going to understand them better and how they apply to AP Government later on. You're also going to know more about our government and how it works now. And then lastly, and maybe most importantly in the short term, is it's going to help you understand the test questions, the reading test questions that you're going to take on Tuesday. So it's going to help you study for that as well. So with that in mind, please just listen for a few minutes. I do want to explain these democratic theories, okay? And so hopefully as you're watching this, you'll maybe have a little bit more of oh, I get that better now. This is important not only for your quiz on Tuesday, but there are a lot of times through the unit, and through the class where I will say something like, do you remember the elite class theory? Or do you remember the pluralistic theory of American democracy? And how would they look at this event? So for example, with presidential power, or with special interest groups or campaign finance reform, Maybe you don't know what those are yet, but we will be talking about presidential power. And then I might say, how might an elitist, somebody who believes in that theory, how would they approach the presidency, or what would they think about the presidency? And if you know these well, you can say, I know, that makes sense to me. They would interpret it this way. Okay. So with that in mind, I'd like to take just a few minutes to teach this. And then maybe when you're reading through your notes or answering the discussion question, tonight or tomorrow, you can say, okay, I understand better what that is. So here's where we're at in chapter 1. It's the idea like we are a republic and we are democratic. We have developed these democratic traditions. And in a kind of like a best case world, we would believe in voting rights. We believe in equality. And they outline these in the book, by the way. We would believe in the power of the people. So equality in voting, effective participation, citizen control of government, inclusion, that we all have an equal chance at this. That's the way it's supposed to work. That's the way our country is supposed to work. That's traditional democratic theory. Okay. By the way, that's on page 12. But this is where we start to say, well, wait a minute. That's the way it's supposed to work. But what is the way it really works? How does it really work? Who really does have the power? What really does happen in a democracy? And that's where on page 13, they talk about these contemporary theories. By the way, they're all a little bit cynical. They believe that, wait a minute, there's, people have power that maybe shouldn't have as much power as they have, or things like that. Okay. And there you can see them up there as well. The first one is probably the least cynical. It's the most hopeful. And that is the idea like, well, people don't have power, but groups have power. And those groups, are kind of organized and they all contend for power. And so, and those groups might be things, could be political parties like the Republicans and the Democrats. But it also could be, special interest groups like the NRA. It could be a group like the Moral Majority, which is a group of Christians that gathered, and still do to a certain degree gather and say, okay, how do we gather together and get what we want in politics? Maybe it's, the NRA, maybe it's the Moral Majority, maybe it's the ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union, tends to be a liberal group. But we would say now people don't have the power in America, but these groups do. And they all, kind of fight. They fight, for the power that they want. They assemble people. And that is really how things get done in America, or that's really who has the power. It's not the people, it's the groups. It's pluralism. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense to you. And to a certain degree, it is where we're going in our government class. We're going to talk about, and James Madison called them factions. And what he's talking about is pluralism. That is mentioned in your book on page 13. And that's group politics, the idea like, okay, these groups, have the power in government. By the way, not necessarily a bad thing, because that's the best way to consolidate your power. It is the people, but it's the people then gathering and then concentrating their power. So a lot of people would say that is a slightly cynical, negative view of government, that it's not really the people have power, but it's groups. But as long as those groups are represented by real people, sure, Christians can gather. Sure, people who are not Christian can gather. That's just part of democracy, and we would say that's not so bad. Okay, so that's the first view of contemporary democracy. Okay, page 14, the next one on the board, it says elite class theory. This is a new book. And the server was down today, so I pulled this off of an old file. But it says elite class theory. It's really elitism in your book, elitism. This theory is more cynical. It basically says it's not about the people, which is traditional democratic power. It's not about groups. It's about the rich. The rich have power. The connected have power. And elitism is this idea like that's really what runs this country. That's really what happens. Okay. That's the driving force. It's all about wealth. It's all about the concentration of wealth. The little guy always gets, left out. The rich and powerful always get what they want. Okay. A good example, maybe you know this person, maybe you don't. Elizabeth Warren is running as a Democrat for the presidency in 2020. She is an elite. She's really good at trying to get people to believe in like elitism. The elites are running this country, the rich, the powerful, the banks, and so on. So she really, plays up that idea like it's not about you, it's about the rich, and I'm here to rescue you from the elites. Okay. To kind of flip the tables a little bit, Donald Trump plays that card too. Donald Trump is very good at saying it's the swamp. It's the government officials. They're really in control here. And to a certain degree, at times he'll do other groups as well. The media, as well. Now, by the way, both those people may, to a certain degree, be right. It is a contemporary theory. You have to decide how much you think they're right. But they certainly, they project that image, of like who's really in charge, to us. Now, it's not just groups. It is more the rich. Okay. Then the last theory up there is called hyperpluralism. Hyperpluralism is, a little bit different. It basically goes back to that first theory. The first theory being pluralism, that there's groups that are involved. And so you have Republicans or Democrats or Christians or non-Christians or the NRA and gun control groups, and they're all contending. There's a few of them that are contending. And out of that, we get maybe compromise and we get stuff done. Hyperpluralists basically say there's so many little groups. There's just tons and tons of little groups in our democracy, and they're all fighting with each other so much that nothing ever gets done. And our whole government is at a gridlock because nothing can ever happen because there's too many groups. And that is hyperpluralism. Okay. You should know that, again, this is pretty cynical. And they basically say, we can never pass, legal reforms because of the lawyers. And we can never do this because of the animal rights groups. And we can never do this because, conservative Christians would never allow it. And we can never do this because this group would never allow it. So nothing ever happens. That would be a contemporary theory of a hyperpluralist saying there's just too many little groups everywhere and they all have rights and we can't step on their rights. And so as a country, nothing happens. Okay. And that is, again, another theory. Maybe it resonates with you and maybe you're saying, you know what? I think that may be true, or I may think it's a lot true. You need to understand that all of these theories are kind of cynical. They look negatively at our government. They all are based on reality. They're all based on truth to a certain degree. The question is, how much truth are they based on? And that is for debate. That is something we're not sure about. And that's where, you have an opinion and you back it up with like, well, here's why I think this one is correct. Or you may say, well, I think they're all a little bit true, but I still hold on to that traditional, American democratic ideal. Like, yeah, we do find equality in voting. We do find good things, in our democracy that are representative of those ideals that the nation started with. So, this is just a short little snippet, on those traditional theories. Hopefully you can watch it. You can now answer the questions on that, on the Google Classroom that I just assigned. I'll email this video to you. I'll also put it on Google Classroom. I apologize that I didn't do it earlier. It's one of those things that was forming in my mind, like how do I offer discussion? And, we're gonna do this until, I either find something better or I realize this really isn't working. So hopefully you can comment. Hopefully I can comment so that you can learn, maybe from my perspective as well. Sorry about that. But, anyway, I hope you have a good rest of your Sunday, and Monday morning. Bye.